Hey folks, we've been talking about the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life for a couple of months now, from 1 John 2:15 and 16. Today we make the transition to the third one, the big one, the pride of life. This is no exaggeration. I could spend a year talking about pride. For one reason, I see it more and more in my own life where I didn't see it before. I actually put together a series of messages called the Chameleon Sin years ago. And I did that because I realized that pride is a chameleon. It just blends into our life in such subtle ways. It morphs, it changes into circumstances, sometimes so much so we think we're actually being humble when in fact we're being prideful. I call this also the iceberg sin. For every 10% of pride that we see above the level, above the surface, there's 90% underneath that we still have not seen yet. I preached this series of messages at a church several years ago, and I remember distinctly after the second or third message, one of the elders got up, and he said, "I've got a comment to make on these messages." And I thought, oh great, I've made him mad and he's going to be upset. He said, if you would have asked me 2 or 3 weeks ago before this series of messages actually started, if I had pride, I would have told you that no, I was a pretty humble man. But he said, after hearing these manifestations, he says, I am racked with pride. And what's worse is I didn't even see it. And I thought to myself, bless God, the Holy Spirit's at work in his life. Because pride, it's more than, thinking we're big and we're bad and we walk through and we sing how great I art. That's just an obvious and almost a gross manifestation. Folks, pride is so much more subtle than that. I remember a young lady came to me one day and she was very soft-spoken, very quiet, very introverted. And she said, Kirk, when I walk into a room full of people, I feel like they're just talking about me. I looked at her and I winked. I called her by name and I said, you're not that important. And at first she was shocked by my comment, almost horrified. And then you could see the light bulb going off. The sparks were starting to fly because she was thinking, this is about me. Why is everybody thinking about me? Her shyness, her introvert, actually was a cover for some manifestation of pride in her life. And so this serves to show us how subtle this can be. So let me give you one characteristic today that's the biggie of all. Pride is anything that comes with an emphasis on me, from me, or to me, or in me. When we put self, when self is the main emphasis, that is a manifestation of pride. C.S. Lewis was a master at talking about pride. He said in one excerpt, pride is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. Let me repeat that. Pride, humility is not thinking less of yourself. Oh, I'm a terrible person. I'm miserable. I shouldn't do that. I'm such a sinner. That's not a true manifestation of humility. It is thinking of yourself less. So one last time. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. In other words, we're not the main thing we think about. We think about what others need. If others have had a bad day, how others are feeling, or to be interested in their story, not them always listening to our story. I hope that makes sense. I mean, we could spend a lot of time talking about just this alone. But humility is thinking of yourself less. That when you talk with somebody, do you have most of the conversations? Are you talking more? Or are you listening more? That can be a manifestation of pride. When somebody tells you their sad story, you try to one-up them with a sadder story in your own life. That too can be a manifestation of pride. And if you will ask the Holy Spirit to show you where you're prideful at, you might be surprised what will unfold. And next week, I will give you an example from my own life of how God just really showed me how prideful I was, and I didn't even realize it at the time. So once again, folks, if God convicts you, bless him. That's a manifestation that you're his son or his daughter, because those whom he loves, He chastens. But until the meantime, this is Kirk Smith with ICHE's Take 5.